Today I'm going to give you an overview of how the program works so you can see how simple it was for the teacher to implement this with students and just how easy it was to track their information and then put some of the responsibility back on students. We're going to start with the pre-screening that all students took with the teacher. It began with this basic MathFact fluency tracking sheet. And as you can see, it's the same for pre and post test. So it began by circling pre-test, or obviously post-test, and then giving the date so I knew when it was given. And then each student had their own column, so we knew exactly who each one was. There were 20 possible facts, starting with 0 to 0, ending with 5 plus 0, since we were working within sums of 5 or less. So these are all of the possible outcomes that you could get to with 5 or less in addition. So the students started out by simply seeing a blank stack of note cards. Like I said, I wanted to keep the program very simple and very basic, easy to implement, easy for students to follow along with. So students saw only those fact cards. They did not see the paper that the teacher was working with because I did not want that to influence their answers or to influence their confidence levels as they went. So as the teacher was going through, I had this on a clipboard so that the students wouldn't see it. As each student answered a question, they were given 1 of 3 marks. A plus sign meant that they were able to correctly answer the question with 3 seconds or less, which is kind of the standard for fluency set forth. After that would be a slash. If the student gave the correct answer, but it took them a longer amount of time, they recorded a slash to show that, and then obviously a minus. Either an incorrect answer or no answer was given by that student. So as the students answered, the teacher simply made a mark. I thought it was really important to have a mark no matter what the student answered, because I think a lot of times students quickly pick up on the fact that you're either making a mark every time they get it correct or every time they get it wrong. Students are really good at figuring out those systems. So I made sure there was a mark for each answer no matter what the student gave. The student would then see a blank or a note card flipped over, and I would read it to them to ensure that they heard and saw the right thing. So I would say 2 plus 3 equals, and in my head I would silently start counting that 3 seconds. So 1, 2, 3. Within that 3-second window, if they gave me a correct answer, we would then go over and mark it. So that one said 2 plus 3. I would just simply find it and write my plus if they got it within the 3 seconds. If, let's say on the next one, 1 plus 3, they instantly gave me a wrong answer, I would simply put in that minus so that I knew that they answered incorrectly. And then if they, on 4 plus 0, then gave an answer of 4, but it was without outside of the 3-second time frame, they would get a slash. Any answer that had a plus was considered correct, because though we appreciate that they understand it with an outside of the 3-second window, we do want them to show that fluency within 3 seconds. So you can see, like student 3 here, they gave 1 incorrect answer, and so they got their 19. But student 8, is the one I'm going to show you. You can see there are no minuses. They gave all correct answers. They knew all their facts, but they had a lot of slashes. It took them a long time to figure those out. I believe that this student was doing some finger counting, which obviously takes longer than that 3-second window. So their goal was really to speed themselves up versus finding the right answer, which I think was a really big, impactful lesson for some of these students to see, okay, I really only got 9 out of 20 because of the length of time. Once they were given this, they did not see their results until they had a conference with the teacher. Before I revealed their results, they then rated themselves either very low level of self-confidence or high. After that, I revealed to them how many they got out of 20, so that student would have put 9 out of 20. And then we had a quick discussion about what things they could do to help themselves out and what things I could do to help them. So for example, that student wrote a lot about picking up the speed of theirs, and then we brainstormed some different games that they could play or activities that they could do to help pick up their speed. And then finally, they set their goal of how many out of 20 they wanted to get. That particular student decided that they wanted to go for all 20 out of 20 since they were just working on the speed. Once they set their goal, they began to track. They would put their goal for their end up here. So this particular student would have put 20 out of 20. And then we tracked their first date. So we tracked, they said 20. So we would have colored all the way. Just quick scribbles. What I told them not to do, obviously. But all the way up to 20 out of 20 so they could see where they wanted to be. And then they would have colored in up here to this number 9. And then written the date that they took it. Then after 2 or 3 days, they would do another quick check. And again, they would color all the way up to 20 and then graph how many they got and continue that on. They did 3 quick checks in the amount of time. And then finally, at the end, they were able to see how many of their actual 20 they got there. Again, the students were given the same pre and post tests. So you can see, here's our post test. Here's our student 9 that we talked about. And you can see they got all pluses, meaning they got them all within that 20 or that 3-second time frame. So they ended up with 20 out of 20. So they would have, again, before I even told them that 20 out of 20, rated themselves. I would have given how many they got correctly. And then they went back and would have graphed their successes. It was a really easy program to implement with the students. The students responded really well, and it gave them a lot of motivation because they had such a large part in what they were doing.